One of my other burning questions that I want to ask is, did we ever land on the moon?
Absolutely not. I think you knew what the answer to that was going to be, Liam. No, no, no. Just a very elaborate psyop. Very, very elaborate psyop. And again, the reasons for it, I guess you knew you were going to ask me that next. Why would they do it? Well, again, it's very, very complex, and there are lots of reasons. It was American prestige, for one. They wanted to beat the Russians to it. It was part of NASA's plan to convince everybody that that it's possible to do that. But I actually don't believe that the moon exists in the way that they tell us, and I don't believe the Earth exists in the way that they tell us either. I don't believe you can actually get out from the Earth at all because we're covered by a firmament, firmament, a dome, whatever you want to call it. And I just think it's part of NASA's plot to fool us into believing their fake universe. And it is a fake universe, without a question of a doubt in my mind. Again, I can't prove it. It's only my opinion. But, you know, opinion based on reading lots and lots of other different authors on the same subject and forming and inferring an opinion. But yeah, it's no, there's no way. You know, even the Van Allen belts, for example. Mr. Van Allen himself said, just shortly before he died, he said, it's impossible. You just cannot travel through them. You just cannot travel through them. So, you know, this was coming straight from the horse's mouth.
So are we living, do you believe in a kind of, round Earth, or are we a flat Earth, or what are we?
I don't consider myself a flat earther as such. I think that we are. I'm a globe questioner, is how I phrase it. You know, until we can prove it one way or the other, it's very difficult. I mean, in my opinion, the Earth is very, very different to what they tell us. Globe Earth stuff that you see, you know, pictures, none of them are real. They're all fake. All those photographs of space from all those photographs of Earth from outer space are all faked. And again, that is easy to prove. So much evidence that it's just an elaborate psyop, I'm afraid.
With your mentality to exist on a daily basis, because every bit of information that you are being fed from the TV and everything else like that, you must look at and say, oh, really, does that happen? Or I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of a weird mental state to have to, well, that you're in, isn't it?
It is. I kind of have the opinion that I don't believe anything that comes out of the TV at all, unless they can actually prove to me that it's true. You know, my default position is that they're just feeding us a pack of lies constantly. That's my default position. I'm not saying that happens all the time. You know, some of the time you will get nuggets of truth. But then again, propaganda's like rat poison, isn't it? As the old saying goes, you know, 95% of it is good and wholesome information, and it's the other 5% that kills you. So yeah, but yeah, how do I live with it? I mean, that's a whole different question. I get asked this all the time, especially from people when I go around doing my public talks. People often ask me, saying, "John, I just feel so isolated. How do you cope with all this? You know, all this terrible information that we're getting bombarded with now." And my answer to that is, well, first of all, I take each day as it comes. I wake up every morning, especially at my age, thinking, great, another day. But the main thing that I do is I compartmentalize it all. And I just live my life. I love my family. I love my friends. Enjoy my life as best as I can. And I only bring it out of this little box into the forefront of my mind when I need to. For example, when I'm doing a podcast with good people like yourself, Liam, or when I'm writing my books, or when I'm doing my talks. But the rest of the time, I've kind of evolved this ability to just shut it out of my head until I need it, or only when I need it.
Jack the Ripper, not one person.
Yeah, Jack the Ripper. No, that's a very, very interesting story as well. And again, another very complex one. The four prostitutes plus one other poor victim who wasn't meant to be killed, they were blackmailing the royal family. Why were they blackmailing the royal family? They were blackmailing them because they were poor people and they needed the money, but mainly because they wanted the truth to come out about what the heir to the throne at that time was. A guy called Prince Albert Victor. He was the guy who would become King George V. He was his elder brother, so he would have become king if he'd lived. And he was a little below average intelligence, shall we say, to be kind. And he, I think probably due to royal inbreeding, but that's only my speculation. And he had an affair with a Catholic commoner, and he clandestinely married her. And now, as a prospective, he was the heir to the throne after his father, and he would not have been allowed to become king. So they disposed of the woman, they lobotomized her, and fortunately the baby was taken into safekeeping. This is how we know this story, because their baby was taken into safekeeping by a guy called Walter Sickert, who was a famous artist of the day and had been giving Prince Eddie, as he was known, art lessons. But he also introduced him to the seedier side of London as well. And this prince, he'd had homosexual affairs, he'd visited homosexual, paedophile brothels, all the rest of it. So it was all very hush-hush, but this group of women decided that it would be a good idea to extract some money from the royals by blackmailing them. Now, as we know, as most people know, the royal families are big into Freemasonry. And there, in Kensington Palace, there is still, I know there was then at the time and still is now, a lodge called the Royal Alpha Lodge, the Royal Alpha Freemasonic Lodge in Kensington Palace. The Royal Freemasons got together and decided to form a Freemasonic hunt and kill party. So there were several people involved. A guy called J.K. Stephen, who'd been Eddie's tutor at Cambridge. Sir Charles Warren, Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police at the time, he was involved in it as well. He didn't actually do the murders, but he was involved in all the cover-up. And also Lord Randolph Churchill, Winston Churchill's father, he was big into that as well. So it was this group of 4 or 5 people who actually carried out the murders in a Freemasonic ritualistic way. All the victims had their throat slit from left to right, that way around on this camera, and their entrails, their bodies opened up. I'm sorry if anybody's squeamish out there listening to this, but the bodies opened up and their entrails thrown over the left shoulder. In some cases, the organs were arranged in a pattern around the head. And the Queen's physician was involved. His name escapes me at the moment. The Queen's personal physician, Victoria. And it was a Freemasonic ritual, basically. The very last victim of all was murdered in Mitre Square in London, outside the Freemasonic Lodge there. So, slogan chalked on the wall, which said, the Jews are the ones that will not be blamed for nothing. It said, it was chalked on the wall, and it's spelled Jews, Juwes. And everybody, Sir Charles Warren spread it, said that he wanted the slogan destroyed, against the advice of his inspector, Aberline. And the reason he gave was he didn't want to incite anti-Semitic hatred in London. But the Jews actually is a Freemasonic phrase, and it refers to Jubela, Jubelo, and Jubelum, who in Masonic legend were the 3 men who murdered Hiram Abiff, who is a famous Freemasonic hero, if you like, in King Solomon's Temple. And so, that's what the Jews referred to. So, what Charles Warren said was absolute nonsense. But it was basically a Freemasonic hunt and kill to destroy 5 women who were trying to blackmail the royal family to bring out the truth about Prince Eddie.
Look, you're doing it absolutely amazing. This is a man who spends years researching this stuff, and I'm getting him to do it in 5 minutes. We've only got about 5 or 6 minutes left. So what's really important here is I want to plug your book. So people, are going to be fascinated by all of this stuff, whether they believe it or not or whatever. But, I'm sure they'd want to know more about the book. So presumably you can get these on Amazon, or is there a website? Do you have your own website that people can buy direct?
Yeah, if you're in the UK, you can buy signed copies direct from my website, which is falsificationofhistory.co.uk. Unfortunately, if you're not in the UK, had to give up sending books abroad because so many of them just went missing, vanished into the ether. It was costing me a fortune. But yeah, Amazon, wherever you are in the world, you can buy my books. It's on every single Amazon platform throughout the world. So yeah, just go to Amazon and type in John Hamer books, and I should come up.
Now, a final question, which I'm sure I'll probably have to cut out. Is religion completely pointless? Did Jesus exist?
Oh no. I'm not a religious person. I regard myself as being a spiritual person. Um, what I mean by that is I believe in a creator, and I believe in living my life in a moral fashion as far as I can. I don't personally believe in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism. I believe that all those elements are all control mechanisms. Again, it's just my opinion, and I know people get upset about their own religion. I don't mean to upset anybody. You're perfectly entitled to your own opinions. That just happens to be mine. It just makes sense to me. It may not make sense to others, but that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. We're not trying to offend anybody here. Believe what you want, but it's also important that we have freedom of speech, especially in nowadays where people have their own beliefs. So I think that's great. So, John, look, it's been fascinating. You've done so many different subjects in the space of 35 minutes. It's and in a short space of time. So it's really appreciated. So people out there, do go and buy John's books because he's a fascinating man, and he does so much research on this. So are you, as a final thing, are you a happy man now? You're free from everything, you walk down the street and you think, yeah, I'm all right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've never been happier in my life than I am at this point in time. Yeah, everything, life is good. I know that the world is a terrible place at the moment. But my final words, if I may, Liam, would be to say to everybody, don't live in fear. Enjoy your lives. They want you to live in fear because you're easy to control. Just enjoy your friends, love your family. Be grateful every day when you wake up and there's a new day. Don't let the bastards grind you down, I would say. Yeah.
That's it. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Fantastic. Thank you very much to John Hamer, and hopefully we will see him again.